Welcome to Word of the Day with Lance Conrad. Today's word is assess. Let me tell you a story. To assess something is to judge it, to evaluate its nature or value. Oddly enough, we see similar Latin roots in the word assistant. An assistant would sit or stand nearby to help. An assessor would sit or stand nearby to judge and decide, usually about taxes. In life, we have to assess many things to determine whether or not they're worth our time, attention, or money. This is especially true in elections. In the United States, we haven't yet elected a female president, though I'm sure it's only a matter of time. The strange thing is, we kind of already had one. Edith Wilson was the wife of President Woodrow Wilson during the First World War. She famously had sheep graze on the White House lawn to save the government money on lawn care, and donated the proceeds from the wool to the Red Cross. She was a wonderful example of a First Lady. However, she became something a little more when her husband suffered a serious stroke in October 1919. His health became so bad that he wasn't allowed to speak to anyone at all ever. Only his wife had access to him. That meant that all matters of government had to come through her. It was her job to assess what was important enough to take to the president. While she insisted that she was only a filter and that her husband made all the true assessments and decisions, it isn't hard to see that she wielded significant power. People actually called her Mrs. President. At one point, she had the Secretary of State removed when he tried to hold cabinet meetings without her present. She functionally operated the office of president until Wilson's term ended in March 1921, a year and a half later. Hello, and welcome to Word of the Day Table Talk. I, of course, am Lance Conrad, and I'm here today with co-writer Michael Forsyth. When we write these scripts, there's often a whole lot that we leave out. Either we had to shorten it, or the content was a little bit too depressing or gruesome, or any other number of reasons why we might have cut things out. So we decided to do this as a way to bring up some of that extra stuff, just kind of give some of that extra content of things that we found were really quite interesting. Mike, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Lance. Happy to be here.
Excellent. What's our first word? Assess. Okay, so the script for the word assess dealt with Edith Wilson. If we're really looking at that, really our first female president.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting, what I feel like we didn't really get a chance to deal with in there was why Wilson had this stroke. Now, granted, it could have been a complete fluke, but really what had happened is America jumped into World War I for the reason Wilson felt that the only way he could justify America going into the war was if America then became the leader and made the world going forward a better place. And he came with this idea of a League of Nations, this great unity that would prevent war forever. And he kind of sold that to the European powers, but they went home and America didn't actually buy into it. And he started campaigning almost 24/7. It was this insane level of work and speaking, and literally ended with him having a stroke.
He was a pretty obsessive individual to begin with. And he was the sort of person that if he thought something was right, he would pursue it with this fanatical zeal.
Bonus word, zealot.
Zealot.
There's a good one. We'll throw the definition up for that one. Yeah, Wilson, I definitely would say, would qualify as something of a zealot.
Do we have a script for zealot?
We do not have a script for zealot.
Put that on my to-do list.
Anything else about Wilson?
We don't have solid documentation of everything that was going on behind the scenes, but what we do have is some downright farcical Weekend at Bernie's antics to convince everyone that President Wilson was in fact still awake and alert and working, when in fact he was largely catatonic. At one point, they did a full photo shoot of him in the Oval Office with, propped up with papers and everything, and they just literally went in between photos and opened his eyes, took the picture so that it looked like he was working, and then and then set him up for another picture. And with these photo shoots, we're able to convince everyone that he was reporting for duty.
Another small instance of her wielding her power as Mrs. President. There was one foreign dignitary who came, and the aide, the assistant, essentially disrespected Edith Wilson as a woman. That diplomat was denied access to government until that aide was fired.
Respect.
Mrs. President.